Good day everyone, I am Margilus D. Domingo from BSED 4B Science, and I am here to discuss to you the selected indigenous science and technology in the Philippines. Let us first have the overview of this lesson. This lesson is designed to inform you how indigenous science contributed to the development of the scientific knowledge in the present. For the learning objectives, first, explain what is indigenous science and technology is. Second is discuss the role of indigenous science and technology. And the last one is explain the different indigenous science and technology in the Philippines. The Philippines is a culturally diverse country with estimated 14 to 17 million of indigenous people or IPs belonging to 110 ethno-linguistic groups. They are mainly concentrated in the northern Luzon or in Cordillera Administrative Region and in Mindanao with some groups in the Visayas area. Here are the examples of some tribes in the Philippines or indigenous people. First one is the Old Women in Ifugao, Suludnon, and some of Visayan tribe. Indigenous people have set in motion the engines of industrialization in essential sectors and extensive knowledge in biological resources as cornerstone of such economic advancement. Filipinos have attempted to invent instruments that will aid them in their daily lives, particularly in the past. They also came up with new theories for describing numerous events and the environment around them. The foundation of indigenous science is indigenous knowledge, which is a system of knowledge. Indigenous knowledge is a knowledge based on the social, physical, and spiritual understanding which have informed the people's survival and contributed to their state of being in the world. Indigenous knowledge is rooted in regional, indigenous, and local communities and can be found in stories, poems, and songs. According to Paliwen 200, indigenous science includes complex arrays of knowledge, expertise, practices, and representations that guide human societies in their innumerable interaction with their natural milieu. Agriculture, medicine, naming and explaining natural phenomena, and the strategies for coping with the changing environments. Indigenous science may also be defined as multi-contextual, which is a system of thought and action applied by indigenous people through which they interpret how nature works in their community. Indigenous science aided individuals in comprehending the natural world and living day-to-day existence. Indigenous technology, on the other hand, are processes or products that have emerged because of the research into indigenous science. Indigenous science is a big help for people to understand their environment, for them to cope up in their everyday life. Since indigenous people live in mountainous area, they don't have the access on the technologies that can support their living. However, they find a way on how to survive by understanding and observing the nature or their environment. Here are some examples of the indigenous science in the Philippines. The first one is the weather observation, followed by herbal medicine and traditional health practices. The third one is the food preservation, and the last one is the classifying soil. Let's discuss the weather observation. Animal behavior was included into ancient people's understanding of weather seasons. This could be purely coincidental to the point where they link it to meteorological conditions. Majority of the indigenous people works is agricultural or farming since they are living in the mountainous area. Majority of them use their knowledge in predicting the weather by means of observing the animal behavior, the star and moon alignment, the movement of the stars, the clouds, and the color of the sky. For them, rainy seasons will come if they observe an unusual behavior of ants, earthworms, dragonflies, dogs, frogs, and birds like Himalayan swiftlet. Also, ripening and shedding of fruits of plants such as pising nut, bangkal, and siniguelas. And the last one is the visible seawater evaporation and high sea waves. Next is the herbal medicine and traditional health practices. Medicinal plants were widely used to treat illnesses, and there were various books that listed these plants. Medicinal plants have been used for therapy in most countries from ancient times and continue to do so now. Indigenous people treat and diagnose illnesses by means of traditional medicine and health practices. Some medical of herbal medicine are the following. The first one is the bitter melon, which is used for antibacterials and used to treat hypertension. The second one is the garlic, which is good for fighting bacteria, cold, and flu. The last one is the guava. Guava leaf and fruit are used as medicines. Indigenous people use guava leaf for intestinal condition, while the fruit is used for lowering blood pressure. For us, storing food to prevent spoilage wasn't a huge concern since we have the technology that we can use to preserve them. Since indigenous people don't have the technologies, they have their ways and procedure to preserve it. By storing and preserving food, indigenous people ensure that they secure the food without jeopardizing future food consumption. So the following are all old food preservation procedure: smoking, drying, salting, cooling and freezing, pickling and canning, and the last one is fermenting. Soil is an important resource directly related to sustainability, especially in sources that depend. Soil is an important resource directly related to sustainability, especially in sources that depend on agriculture, since indigenous people are located in mountainous area. Indigenous people classify soil by means of observing its texture, color, structure, and other things regarding the soil. Now let's proceed to the next one. These are some indigenous technology in the Philippines. The first one is yo-yo, followed by medical incubator, erythromycin, fish sauce, banana ketchup, anti-cancer cream and mold, and the 16-bit. The first indigenous technology is the yo-yo. During the Spanish era, yo-yo played an important function. Filipinos used it as their weapons in survival. It wasn't merely a toy made up of an axle, two discs, and a string wrapped around the axle. It was invented by Pedro Flores. Pedro Flores was a Filipino businessman and a yo-yo maker who has been credited with popularizing the yo-yo in the United States. He patented an innovation to yo-yos that used loop instead of nut around the axle, allowing for new tricks such as the ability of the yo-yos to sleep. So the next indigenous technology is the medical incubator. In a bid to help families in rural communities without electricity, Dr. Fe del Mundo invented a bamboo incubator in 1941. Dr. Fe del Mundo utilized two laundry baskets, one inside the other, with hot water running between them to provide warmth to the newborn babies. The next one is the erythromycin. It is an antibiotic that used to treat diseases, a wide range of bacteria. The next one is the erythromycin. It is an antibiotic that used to treat a wide range of bacterial diseases, including skin infection and infection of the upper respiratory tract. While testing sample of soil from his own backyard, Dr. Abelardo Aguilar isolated a strain of bacteria which led to the development of erythromycin, a broad-spectrum antibiotic used universally today. Unfortunately, Aguilar received no credit for his discovery. Aguilar was allegedly promised a trip to company's manufacturing plant in Indianapolis, but it was never be fulfilled. Eventually, Aguilar parted ways with the company and devoted the rest of his professional career by giving medical services in the Iloilo City. Then the Food Sauces Incorporation is classified as a backyard producer because there is no technology involved in making fish sauce or patis. The next one is banana ketchup. Banana ketchup is a popular condiment in the Philippines and it is used in practically every cuisine. Maria Orosa E. Ilagan, a food technologist, came up with that idea. She also discovered the calamansi nip, a powdered form of calamansi to make a calamansi juice, and the soya lac, which is a powdered version of soya beans. Maria Orosa E. Ilagan was an advocate for using locally available ingredients. When a tomato shortage ensued, she found a way to create ketchup from bananas. In 1942, Universal Food Corporation, or UFC, distributed the first mass-produced banana ketchup, which is still a staple today. The next indigenous technology in the Philippines is the anti-cancer cream and mold. Rolando de la Cruz earned the Gold Award at the prestigious International Inventors Forum in November 2005 for developing an anti-cancer cream. The cream was made from cashew nuts and various plants found in the area and was called DEBCC. DEBCC is used to treat basal skin carcinoma, or BSC, which is a most common type of skin cancer. The last indigenous technology is 16-bit. Diosdado Banatao created the first single-chip graphical user interface accelerator, which significantly improved computer performance. This development has made it possible for computer users to use images instead of the traditional textual commands seen on older systems. Every personal computer in existence has imprints of his life works in it. The PC chip and graphics accelerator chip. These developments were created at his first couple of startups, Mostron, Chips and Technologies, and S3 Graphics, between 1974 and 1989, while in 2000, he consumerized GPS technology. Many of his innovations have been sold to IBM and Intel.